Mr. Tweed. This is Corduroy Land. It's a wonderful place to live with corduroy trees, corduroy lakes, corduroy humidors, corduroy decanters, and everybody who lives in Corduroy Land has a great big corduroy smile. Everybody, that is, except Mr. Tweed. Mr. Tweed lives at number 1 Tweed Cottage. It is called that because the entire cottage is made out of tweed, and it's number 1 because there's only one Tweed Cottage in the whole of Corduroy Land. As he did every morning, about this time, Mr. Tweed woke up from underneath his tweed six-tog duvet, took off his tweed nightcap, put on his tweed slippers, and walked across the tweed carpet. He took hold of the tweed curtains, pulled them open, and, "Oh gosh, damn and blast!" exclaimed Mr. Tweed. Outside his window was a truly beautiful sight. There was a big yellow corduroy sun in the sky, some little white corduroy ducks waddled past, and a scantily clad corduroy filly was lying on the corduroy grass in the corduroy park not far from Mr. Tweed's cottage. It was a beautiful sight to anybody except Mr. Tweed. "I hate corduroy," exclaimed Mr. Tweed. "It's ridiculous. Its lines are so straight and parallel to each other, not like a good herringbone tweed with its perpendicular up and down and alternating hues of colour. Oh no, that's a fabric, I can tell you." Mr. Tweed drew the curtains tightly shut again. He sat on his tweed Chesterfield sofa, lit a tweed cigar, and counted his tweed money. You see, royalties from tweed advertising and the like had rendered Mr. Tweed quite rich. And this is how Mr. Tweed lived every day of his life. That was until one day he woke up from underneath his tweed six-tog duvet, took off his tweed nightcap, put on his tweed slippers and walked towards the window again. He took hold of the tweed curtains, pulled them open, and "Oh gosh, damn and blast!" exclaimed Mr. Tweed. However, it wasn't the chiselled lines of corduroy that rendered him aghast. "What on earth is that beige, black and red irregular checked tree over there?" exclaimed Mr. Tweed. No sooner had he spotted the tree when another hideously patchworked object caught his eye. "That dog over there is the same, and that house, and that vehicle." And the corduroy people, instead of their usual huge corduroy smiles, were glum and cried corduroy tears. What on earth is going on? Mr. Tweed decided to investigate. He opened his tweed door for the first time in years and stepped out into the half-corduroy, half-bepatterned street. "What ho, you there, corduroy boy, what's going on around here?" "Corduroy Land has been sold to a big popular mainstream conglomerate. It's going to be renamed Burberryville," said the boy. "Good God," Mr. Tweed exclaimed, and went back inside. Back in his tweed house, Mr. Tweed tried to put all those silly folk of corduroy out of his mind by counting his tweed money. But for some reason, he couldn't get the thought of all those corduroy tears out of his head. And those new Burberry fellows that had started to hang around outside his door seemed like the undesirable type. What could Mr. Tweed do? He thought and he thought. And he pondered and he pondered and he pondered. And he mused and he mused and he mused. Then it struck him. Mr. Tweed was rich. He could buy the town himself. Even a corduroy town was better than a Burberry one. Mr. Tweed gathered up all of his tweed notes and threw them into his tweed wheelbarrow and ran off to the town buying shop. And you know, he made it just in time. All the Burberry trees were pulled down and the corduroy trees replanted. The Burberry lake was drained and the corduroy lake was refilled. And, strangest of all, having seen what the world could be like, Mr. Tweed began to like corduroy. He began talking to the corduroy people, who weren't that bad after all. He admired the corduroy sun in the sky each morning, and fondly ogled the scantily clad corduroy filly that lay on the corduroy grass. And now, every morning, Mr. Tweed wakes up from underneath his tweed six-tog duvet, takes off his tweed nightcap, puts on his tweed slippers, opens his tweed curtains, and steps out of the house for another happy day in Corduroy Land. And can you guess what type of socks Mr. Tweed wears nowadays? Yes, of course. They're a grey-white with mustard overchecked serge polyester weave. The end.